Welcome to the latest edition of MOT Matters. Mobile phones. Now, we've nearly all got one, but how many of us use or even know how to use all its functions? This one apparently has got a radio in it. I never use it. Now, we've all got gadgets these days with an ever-increasing set of functions that we rarely use. Your computer, for example. That's because they're all designed for a highly competitive global mass market. Some things, though, are specifically designed, like this VTS device, a system designed with the tester and AE in mind. Now, you're all experts at using the VTS device to log vehicles for test, but it can do much more than that. So I'm going to show you some of the additional functions and just how easy it is to use. But for that, I need a VOSA bloke. Well, this is VOSA's training school at Chadderton in Manchester, where we have a VTS device especially set up, ready for filming, and technical trainer Brian Gray is here to guide us through it. Brian, hi.
Hello, Sophie.
What are you going to show us?
I'm going to show you some of the extra functions on the VTS device that's designed to make life easier for testers and authorised examiners. Give you a few tips on what to do if things go wrong.
And I notice we've got a flat screen.
Yeah, that's to make things clearer for the film.
Should we start with the worst case scenario? Let's start with what happens if things aren't quite as they should be.
Well, most important, don't get in a panic. Simply switch it off, check all the connections are OK, and then restart it. You'll be amazed how many times that fixes the problem.
The turning off and on again thing. But I imagine, as with your computer at home, you want to close it down properly, don't you? Not just...
Dead right. You remove your smart card, wait for the greeting screen, and then press F12 to shut it down.
And what if turning it on and off doesn't work?
You can check your phone line, ask yourself whether all the other phones in the building are working. You can also plug an analogue phone into the socket that the VTS device uses, see if you get a dial tone.
And how do I tell it's an analogue phone?
This is one here. It connects with a cable, and less than a tenner in this day and age.
And so, how do I decide whether it is a problem with MOT computerisation or not?
Right, if you've tried these quick and easy steps that we've got here, and it still doesn't work, then you'll need to contact the service desk.
And if I do that, what's the procedure? There'll be a recorded message, will there, that will guide me through what I do?
Yeah, that's right. It'll make it a lot easier if you've got to note to hand just with your VTS number, your user ID, and any error codes that are displayed on the screen.
So have a pen and paper handy, jot those down, and of course any incident number that they give me should I need to call them back.
Yeah, absolutely. And when phoning the service desk, it's always a good idea to listen to the opening message.
So, Brian, an engineer is on the way. How do I carry on testing?
Oh, it's very simple. If you've got a problem with a VTS device or the telephone line, then you're testing what's known as fallback.
And how do I use the fallback system?
You need to follow a few easy steps. You make a note of the vehicle details, VIN number, registration number, and you must use your VT40 checklist for this. You'll need this for verification purposes later, which we'll look at in the NT section. Once you've made a note of all the details, then you call the service desk and when prompted by the message, select the fallback option.
If you have already reported a fault and would like to carry out a test under fallback, please press 3.
When the service desk agent answers, he'll ask you some security questions because he needs to identify you, because you could be anybody, couldn't you? So you give them the details you noted down. They'll register the vehicle on your behalf, provide you with a test number and any VSI details, and you write that down on your VT40.
And then just test the vehicle as normal?
Yeah, and when you finish, contact the service desk again, selecting the fallback option when prompted, giving any failure items across the phone, and then you just use the normal documentation, but you write it by hand.
That's all great, but if I'm very busy, that is 2 telephone calls per vehicle, isn't it? Is there not a quicker way?
Oh yeah, you can speed it up again. I mean, when you ring them to enter your test results, if you've got another vehicle you want to test, you can register that one at the same time. That means 1 call instead of 2.
OK. Is there anything else I need to do?
Yeah, you'll need to check that the test details the service desk have entered are correct and confirm them, and I'll show you how to do that later in the NT section.
Great. Now, that all sounds quite straightforward, so why is there a need for emergency testing?
Emergency testing needs to be used when there's a major problem with the MOT computer system, which is affecting many test stations.
And how am I going to know that that's the case? How will I know that other people are experiencing problems too?
If we're in emergency testing, when you ring the service desk, there'll be a recorded message, and that'll also give you the ET code.
Welcome to MOT computerization on the 3rd of July 2008 at 1000 hours. Please be aware that emergency testing was declared at 1000 hours. The emergency incident testing number is 7403010. I repeat, 7403010. For information regarding emergency testing, please refer to section N in the testing guide and use emergency incident testing number 7403010. If you're able to test as normal, please do so.
And what if there is such a major problem that I actually can't get through to speak to anybody?
Well, you don't need to talk to anyone. All you need on the recorded message is the ET authorisation code, and then away you go. And most of all, if you miss the code, don't get in a panic. Redial and then get the code. And then what you should do after that is you should ring the service desk periodically to check whether the message has been updated.
So that pen and paper coming in handy again. What about the actual emergency testing procedure? Is that complicated?
No, if you've been testing for a while, it's a bit like the old paper-based system. You do handwritten certificates, you keep a register, a bit like the old VT12, and you enter the test back up on the system when it's back up and running. And
will every testing station have some of those?
Oh, yeah. They'll also have a testing guide, which outlines the process clearly in section N.
OK, well, that all sounds quite simple. What about standalone testing?
VOSA recognised the need for a process which would avoid emergency testing and eliminate the need for catch-up.
And what are the kinds of circumstances in which that might happen?
What it means is, although your VTS device is working, it cannot communicate with a central system.
So will there be a message on my screen telling me that I'm in standalone testing?
Only on the greeting screen, but you are prompted to put in a VT32, which will have details about SAT printed on it for the customer, as well as a piece of plain paper for the VTS to keep for their records.
And why can't we just do it in fallback testing?
The service desk would never cope. I mean, there's over 130,000 tests a day. I don't think they'd have much chance of answering the telephone. You never do it. You never do it.
Well, I can see that makes sense. So we're in standalone testing. Is there anything we need to do differently?
Well, the good news is you don't need to verify test results and you don't need to perform catch-up. When you're in standalone testing, you carry on testing normally, but you'll notice there's extra wording on the VT32. You can carry on testing in standalone testing for around about 4 hours, and then the system will ask you to enter a standalone testing code.
And where do I get that from?
Service desk. Ring the service desk.
Great, well, that all sounds quite simple. Are there any other ways I can keep up to date with new processes and MOT computerisation?
Yes, there are. Whenever the MOT comp system's updated, then the details are listed on the service news page on the device. You can also read matters of testing. There's often articles in there highlighting new processes and giving top tips on existing ones.
And what kind of stuff do they feature?
We try to concentrate on processes that are used regularly, but we know give NTs and AEs a problem.
And how do you know that they're causing a problem?
Feedback. We want NTs and AEs to let us know if they want us to explain anything to them. If as an individual they're unsure, then there's bound to be other individuals that are unsure as well.
The address to send your questions to is in Matters of Testing, and also on the Information and Contacts menu, which you can access from the menu that's about to follow. The menu will also give you 2 films to watch with more information and tips. We recommend that NTs watch the first and that AEs and site managers watch both.